Exercise with oxygen therapy is one of the most powerful unknown wellness tools out there. Many people are spending tens of thousands of dollars on hyperbaric chambers, PEMF mats, cold plunge baths, red light therapy, and so many other wellness technologies before they discover the power and the simplicity of exercise with oxygen therapy, or EWOT. And without the power of oxygen, many of those modalities will never live up to their promise. Michael had chronic fatigue for years after he developed long COVID. He had crippling headaches, he had brain fog and couldn't even remember things. He was waking up stiff every day and he could barely climb the stairs. And he was using a daily cold plunge and even red light therapy several times a week with just modest improvements. So when he found out about EWOT, he came to us to ask. And his transformation was nothing short of amazing. In his first week, he noticed he was no longer getting the afternoon crash. He could make it through the afternoon without thinking about a nap. And he also noticed that his memory was better. He was thinking more clearly and could recall things much more easily. By the third week, he had energy that lasted all day. He was sleeping deep and he was remembering his dreams, and the pain had started to go away. Within just 3 weeks, all of the stiffness and pain was starting to go away. He described it as transformative, and he was so impressed that it only took him 15 minutes to do the protocol. So let's learn a bit more about EWOT. What is it? Well, EWOT, quite simply, is exactly what it sounds like. It's doing exercise while breathing a high amount of oxygen. Now, right now, as I'm sitting here, we normally breathe about 21% oxygen. But when we do EWOT, we increase it to 93%. That's over 4x the amount of oxygen in every breath. But we're also taking advantage of all the physiological changes that happen in the body during exercise. The body naturally knows that it does not have enough oxygen to keep up exercise, and it has all of these physical adaptations to allow it to bring more oxygen in and deliver it to the tissues. So we start breathing more deeply and more frequently. And the membrane of our lung, that thin lining between our lung and our blood, thins out to allow more blood flow to pass through. And then our heart takes over. It beats faster, it beats deeper, and it pushes more blood through our circulatory system with every stroke. And in addition to that, we have vasodilation, which means our blood vessels get larger. They open up to allow more blood to flow through them. All of these physiological adaptations allow us to bring the equivalent of 12 or 14 hours of oxygen into our body with just a 15-minute EWOT session. So simply put, EWOT is doing exercise, often cardiovascular exercise, for 15 minutes while you breathe oxygen through this high-flow mask. And the amazing thing that happens when you do it is that the oxygen doesn't just flood your red blood cells, but it also goes into your blood plasma. Now, blood plasma normally doesn't carry very much oxygen. Maybe just 2% of all the oxygen in your circulatory system is in your plasma. Plasma is this clearish brown liquid that the red blood cells ride on. And when we do EWOT, we saturate it with oxygen. And the important part about this is blood plasma is 1,000 times thinner than a red blood cell. So it's able to get into parts of the circulatory system that are blocked by inflammation and aging. It's able to get into tissues that were previously starved of oxygen and provide them with the necessary fuel so that they can produce ATP, their primary energy source. And when the cells have the fuel they need, they can do everything they're supposed to do at their best. So, is EWOT safe? Well, EWOT is incredibly safe. The number one largest risk that comes from doing EWOT is the risk that comes from doing exercise. So when you exercise, you can have soft tissue injuries like muscle pulls or strains and all of these sorts of things. And so Obviously, when you add oxygen to it, those still exist, but there's no major new risks that are introduced from breathing oxygen while you exercise. The other issue people often think of with oxygen is oxygen toxicity. Can you get too much oxygen while doing EWOT and get oxygen toxicity? The short answer is you cannot. But first, let's understand what oxygen toxicity is. When you're breathing a massive amount of oxygen and you're in a pressurized environment, such as if you were scuba diving deep underwater or even in a hyperbaric chamber, you can develop something known as oxygen toxicity. And what happens is the oxygen gets trapped inside the circulatory system and it cannot escape to get into the cells. However, when you're at normal temperatures and pressures, like let's say sitting on your couch, it would take over 24 hours of breathing oxygen to get oxygen toxicity. And we just mentioned a few minutes ago that when you're doing EWOT, you can take in 12 or 14 hours, but it is nowhere near the 24 hours that would be necessary to put you at risk of oxygen toxicity. But the safety goes further yet, because if you could magically do 5 hours a day of EWOT, you still couldn't get oxygen toxicity, because when you're exercising, your body produces a massive amount of carbon dioxide. Now, we think of carbon dioxide as a waste gas, and it is, but it also does something else for the body. It creates pressure inside of our circulatory system, and that pressure forces the oxygen out and into our tissues. So there is no risk of oxygen toxicity. Now, the final safety concern is around oxygen and flammability. Now, oxygen is not flammable like gasoline. If you were to take the end of a hose from our reservoir with the oxygen pouring out and put a lighter up to it, you would not create a flamethrower. However, you would notice that the flame would burn hotter and it would get a little bit larger. And the same thing can happen if there is a fire in your house that were to burn hot enough and large enough and burn through the reservoir, then it could release a lot of oxygen and quickly accelerate the flame. So, for safety's sake, don't use your EWOT system anywhere near open flames, candles, cigarettes, or any other source of ignition. And do not set it up within 10 feet of a gas appliance like your HVAC system, your heater, your water heater, your stove, or any other gas appliance. Just keep it away. And of course, if there's a flame in your house that's large enough and has made its way near the reservoir, you need to get out of your house. That's a safety issue. Even if that reservoir was not there, it is time to evacuate. Luckily for us, we have not seen this. With simple safety protocols, you can use EWOT perfectly safe. Now, is EWOT right for you? Well, if you're healthy enough to exercise and you want to experience the many benefits of EWOT, then EWOT is likely right for you. As long as you have clearance from your doctor that you are healthy enough to exercise, you can benefit from EWOT. We have folks who are athletes using it to increase their performance and reduce the recovery time. And we're not just talking weekend warriors, we're talking professional athletes, college athletes, Olympic competitors are using it. But it's not just for them. We have people who are dealing with chronic health conditions, recovering from cancer, trying to recover from cognitive decline or cognitive injury, people with autoimmune conditions, long COVID, Lyme disease, and so many things. And it's not just for them either, because we also have folks using it who are using it for longevity, who are using it for its biohacking benefits, and who are interested in their general wellness and health span. So if these sound like you, EWOT might be a great fit. So in general, we learned what is EWOT. EWOT is breathing near pure oxygen while exercising for 15 minutes. We do this to saturate our blood plasma, which allows us to get oxygen into places in our body that have been starved of oxygen for a long time. And this allows many benefits. We also learned that EWOT is incredibly safe when you use the proper precautions, and that it's valuable for anybody who's well enough to exercise and wants to experience the many benefits of EWOT. So stick around, and in our next video, we're going to discuss all of the benefits of EWOT. I hope you enjoyed this and see you in the next one.